Hey there, episode 168. Today we have Jonathan Tuttle, a real estate investor specializing in mobile home park investments. All this and more coming up.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and to reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now, your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Show. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke, and today we have Jonathan Tuttle. He's the fund manager for Midwest Park Capital Group, a mobile home park investment firm. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us on the show, and how you doing, my friend?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I have to say, you're probably the best intro of any podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Continually trying to improve, so I appreciate that compliment. But more so, I'm very interested in mobile home parks, learning more about it. We had a couple guests in the past talk about it. But as I'm seeing more institutional investors, even in the many billionaires that's involved, I'm wondering why it doesn't get as much traction. So now that we're heading into 2021, people are looking at different types of investments. So I appreciate your expertise to kind of shed some more light on it. But for the people who are not familiar with you, would you mind kind of talking about your background, how you got started in real estate?
Sure. So I grew up in a real estate family. My dad was a general contractor, built about 80 some custom homes. So even as a little kid, I'd be working on the job sites. I would actually fill the dumpsters one of my teenage years. So I actually did the hard work. He also had 3 real estate brokerages office in the suburbs, around suburbs outside Chicago. So I saw basically all sides of real estate, over the course since I was a baby, basically. So it was just that foundation led us to getting a parks about 15 years ago. And it was literally the only performing real estate we had that during the last downturn. We didn't have any issues. It was just an incredible asset. And after I saw that, I wanted to go full force in investing and brokering in mobile home parks.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, you had the background in mobile home parks, so you was able to see that. But for people who are not like really familiar with mobile home parks, can you kind of talk about what it is and why is it such an attractive investment?
Yes, it's getting a lot more mainstream media now, especially this past year. It used to be like you talk about it, people are like, what is a mobile home park? Why are you involved in that space? It was like you tell your friends that they thought you were crazy. It's highly fragmented industry, which is a good thing for your investors. It's basically it's if you like self-storage, it's kind of like that alternative asset class that people know, but it's just not a good conversation to talk about if they don't, it just sounds weird when you talk about it. But this past year has been really like a defining moment. We had a 12% increase in value when every other asset class went down with the COVID situation. So it just really just demonstrated how popular or how resilient these real estate property this class is. It's just an incredible asset class.
Yeah, especially I mean, you got multi-billionaires like Sam Zell, the Carlyle
Yep.
Group, Blackstone. A lot of
Yep.
institutional investors are buying into it, and they've been talking about this for years. So like,
Yep.
as I'm starting to hear more and more at it, is now more so as we are, coming out of a tough year, and people are looking at their real estate portfolios like, what am I going to get involved in? Definitely start looking at these kind of like I would call recessionary proof that are able to kind of withstand these different market cycles. Can you kind of talk about I know there's a whole many benefits of real estate, but specifically mobile home parks and why investors should be looking at this asset class more?
Yeah, I think it's now becoming mainstream. One of the benefits of mobile homes park investing is they can't really develop new ones. It's been about 10 developed per year for the last 20 years based on data, or it's like a conversion. And even if you're going to invest in an asset, you don't want to have no cash flow, any cash flow for the first 4 years if you had to develop from the ground up. It's usually about 1 to 3 cap rate higher than an actual apartment complex or a Class C apartment. Additionally, you have a 15-year, the tax depreciation is the best of all real estate. So traditional commercial real estate is 39 years, multifamily, great asset class, 27.5. But actually, when you acquire a park, you could depreciate most of it the first year because of all the land and the actual home sit on. So it's about 65 to 70% you can write off with the 15-year depreciation right off the bat. You have a tenant that stays with you on average 14 years compared to any other asset class. When you have somebody that can't really move, you have that guaranteed revenue coming in. And then just the fact that it's now getting institutional financing available. So Fannie and Freddie are allocating about 37% to affordable housing, and the biggest recipient is mobile home parks. So we've had this like all these things lined up in a row, and it all just benefited us. So it's a great time to be in this space.
And you kind of could talk about the demand. I know, like I said, people are looking for affordable housing. People are moving out of the big cities, trying to look for reduced rent. Of course, there's a shift in economics as far as kind of people are trying to get back into the labor force as we're going through this. So can you kind of talk about the demand side from an economical standpoint from people looking for affordable rental?
Yeah, it really comes down to the supply and demand economics. There's about 60 million million Americans that need affordable housing, and there's only about 12 million mobile homes. So you have that working to your advantage. And traditionally, our cost is one third. This, if you're in the same town, is one third the cost of a single family house or one half of an apartment. So you really are the only non-subsidized affordable housing option, and it makes sense. So even if the average American earns 33,000 a year, they don't have much options based on the cost of living and the rent. So we really fill that void. And that's what's really driving the asset class and really makes it a great, appealing investment because you're serving and helping people, but you're also making a great return because you have a captive audience and you're providing a solution they need.
And then you had also mentioned as well beforehand, as far as kind of the comparison of multifamily, as far as kind of like the higher returns. Can you also kind of comment a little further on that as well?
Yeah, so like we're seeing a cap rate compression. Like it's people like me who are on these podcasts, and more people start finding out about mobile home parks. So we're seeing a
Right.
cap rate compression right now. But
Yeah.
traditionally, like 10 years ago, you'd see like a 10% cap rate. It was like crazy high comparatively. And one of the reasons is our management costs are a lot lower than the average apartment complex is about 55, maybe 60%. Ours is about 35 for mom and pop, or if it's institutional owned with more overhead, they're 42 to 44% operational costs. You have that also benefits you as an investor because you have lower operational costs. You get better. We actually, for the first time in history, have better financing terms than multifamily. We saw high twos, low threes this year, 10-year non-recourse on Fannie Freddie type financing. And then you also have the fact that at the end of the day, peace of mind that this has been the safest real estate for the last 50 years, comparatively to self-storage a close second, and multifamily does really well, but we've been the top safest investment for 50 years. So the secret's not really out anymore. It's just people have to find the deals or invest in funds like ours.
And as far as kind of like getting into deals, is the market still fragmented with like current owners that's kind of like mom and pops, or new investors are able to kind of capture that, or is it really swallowed up now or getting there with kind of institutional money?
No, great question. It's very timely. We right now currently institutional ownership is approximately 7 or 8% as of right now, the data we have. So they're still highly fragmented. So majority of these park developers, it's second, third generation. They were developed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it's really the opportunity. If you're like a first-time investor, the opportunity is a small mom and pop. You could get them on mobile home park store or just kind of work your local area and find those smaller deals and maybe get seller financing. Those are probably the best opportunities. But for like funds like us, we go for the 75 to 250 units for scale of economics, and also it's just we have a lot more capital to deploy, so we have to buy bigger assets. And it's usually easier to run a bigger park than is a smaller park because of the management efficiencies and systems and process are a lot easier.
I like that a lot. And you had mentioned like people that either can invest into your fund or invest into some of your projects. But for the people who kind of want to get their feet wet, learn more about the business, we had talked pre-show regarding you teach people mobile home park investing. Can you talk about what can they get out of your course and when it's available?
Yeah, so depending on when this airs, we have a mobile home wealth academy. You can see it behind me here. It's a little banner. I'm recording videos, but it basically teaches people because the fund is for accredited investor, which is 200 plus for the last 2 years or 300 if you're married or have $1 million liquid, not including your house. So I want to have a solution for everyday people that like listen to this podcast that want to actually learn how to flip mobile homes. It's the easiest form of real estate to get involved with, the lowest amount of capital. You got to think of a 70s or 80s mobile home. It's probably a couple grand. You might even be able to get it, on the contract from the seller. And a lot of these, it's just using Facebook ads and Craigslist to market it and maybe spruce it up a little bit. And it's basic stuff. It's not like a single family house where you have to like tear down walls, bring in a whole new kitchen. You got to remember, this is affordable housing. So power wash or paint the outside, put a new skirting, new deck, new carpet, better appliances, clean it up. And you're going to have this, basically it's like arbitrage. You can have that arbitrage. You find the deal Facebook, Craigslist, or just driving around through your local park. Not many people are doing it. So like unlike other asset class like single family flipping, you could probably be the only one or two people in your area flipping mobile homes. So it's basically this huge blue ocean. It just, you got to go out and put some work into it. So the course
Hmm.
is basically step by step. I have a lot of people in the industry that they've never really, it's kind of like people don't give a lot of information out about the industry. I know there's a couple other courses out there, but I literally want to provide like the step by step best course out there, and we're charging a third the price.
Mm.
So, and we have a Facebook group, and we're basically providing everything. Somebody that just heard about mobile home and mobile home flipping, we want to be the first and only source for them. So,
Exactly. Yeah. For me, because like I said, we run like a passive investors group, and we're all about like education, and I'm really
yep.
touching about us knowing the type of stuff that we invest in. So I think having a product like that, just even if you're going to be a passive investor, to kind of know exactly what you're investing in, so you feel more comfortable with the asset class, you feel more comfortable with the operations, so it doesn't feel like you're just writing a check and hoping. You actually know how things is operating in it, and you know it as an active investor, but you just don't have the time to do it, and then pass off it to a credible sponsor that knows what they're doing. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing information on that. But to learn more about you as an individual, can you take us through like a typical workday for you, and do you have any special morning routines?
Yeah, morning routines are key. I get up, well, I started doing a sleep tracker to keep track because I was sleeping too little, according to like the REM on my Fitbit, whatever they call it. But normal, I get up and I work out for an hour and a half, but I listen to podcasts and I listen to books every day. So there's a little tip for everyone. If you work out and do an hour and a half, just do the treadmill or weights every day, 5, 6 days a week, that's a full book a year. And the average CEO reads 52 books a year. So if you did that for an entire year, not only are you getting, the fitness aspect and the health benefits, you're also getting the educational. Instead of, I love music, but you throw in a book or a podcast, you're actually really benefiting your time. So that's a
Hmm.
great way to get ahead. So I always make sure I get the workout, and then also having that educational component every morning, because that compounds over time. If you do that every day over the course of years, you're going to be that much smarter than the average person.
Exactly, absolutely. And as far as kind of like you with your team or your partners, like, do you have any tools or resources that you guys use to make yourself more productive during the day?
We use a lot of like these softwares, the SaaS softwares like Slack. Uh, that's probably the biggest one. We have so many different softwares. I mean, 'cause I'm really big into tech. But yeah, I'd say Slack is probably the most important for us, basically just for communication and just keeping track of everything. And then in terms of, we are decentralized, especially with COVID. We have an office in the city, but it's like there was like two COVID outbreaks. So it's a beautiful office, by the way. It's like overlooking like downtown Chicago and it's great skyline views. But like I'm not gonna go there and try to get COVID. So we all work from home,
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah, we
Um,
rely so much now on technology, like we just to make like I said, with Zoom. I love Zoom and all these different
yeah.
things, just to kind of connect our world, and people are becoming more adapt, so it's becoming a lot easier for the right average person.
Yeah, it makes technology, and the thing is, people have had to catch up. They said we've moved advanced basically like 5 years because this would eventually happen. Everyone doing like Zoom type meetings and like using
Hmm.
technology more, but people that weren't caught up, that's the biggest hiccup I think of some people this past year, is like people that weren't prepared for the technology advances. Like if you look at it from like you're probably around my age, but I'm assuming, but we grew up with technology when it first came out. But the baby boomers, they didn't grow up with technology, and then you have the new
Exactly.
generation that only does technology and they don't know how to communicate face to face. So if you could find that happy medium where you could be able to communicate face to face, do trade shows, and still actually talk to people in real life, but then also leverage technology and efficiencies, that's where you're going to really win in the future. And that's what we're seeing now with the Zoom. Is like, okay, we're doing these Zoom meetings, but at the same time, when you meet people, you want to invest in a deal, you got to still go face to face.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Awesome. Yeah, you have great backstory. Love what as far as you learning from your father, working in the business to now you're doing it, teaching others, helping others. Can you kind of talk about what you're most grateful for?
Yeah, I would say like health is number one. I did like a meta axi test. I don't know if any entrepreneurs out there take it. It's called the meta axi test. It's like $20, and it basically measures your inflammation. So if you could be working out, you could be eating healthy. It's a basic test that tells you 50 times more accurate than your blood test if you're having inflammation. We know inflammation is the biggest indicator of long-term health problems. So like, autoimmune disease, gut health, all this stuff. We have all this knowledge and we have access to like this data and that we didn't even have 10 years ago. We could take this test and you could say, hey, my inflammation's high, so that's going to affect my energy levels, my performance, everything. And I noticed so I typically work like 90, 100-hour weeks. That's my passion is work. That's what I feel like I'm here to do. Even with like a systems process, I just always want to accomplish more. But I realized that my health was deteriorating this year. So I've been really focused on just eating like whole plant food diet with some proteins, but like really focus on everything I eat and then also keep my inflammation down. So I think anybody who's listening to this, definitely just take that Med-Active test. It's like $20 online to see, because if you could, solve that problem early on, you don't want it to compound later on. So
Totally agree with that. Same for me, because like I said, overall I was like like an athlete, and always thought I was pretty fit, but I did have some inflammation problems, like through autoimmune disease. So that I noticed I ended up switching over to a full keto diet, and then like I said, just really about, especially now I'm a father, and you gotta look for the next generation and bringing up your family. So it's really just key on looking at your health and energy and all that type of stuff. It all adds together, and it all starts with what you're eating and taking care of, living a healthy lifestyle. So I appreciate me and you definitely resonating on that. I really appreciate that. And as far as kind of what we'll make sure to have all the contact information in the show notes. But is there any contact information you're willing to share with our audience today?
yeah, so if you're an accredited investor and they want to have like a passive investment where we do all the work and they want to learn about our fund, it's Midwest Park Capital. And we also have a second website where it's actually like a full login. You can see the PPM. It's called MidwestParkCapitalFund.com. Either one. The first one's more about just giving a general story, but if you want to see the private placement, see what we're doing, the Midwest Park Capital Fund is the better site. And then Mobile Home Wealth Academy. Right now, I have 2 funnels built, but I'm not putting them live. I don't want them to start ranking before the content's out there. But I do have Mobile Home Wealth Academy, which is basically the login page. But that you could also put your email in there, and we'll capture and we'll tell you when it comes out. ETA is probably end of January 2021. It's coming up here soon. So, and then for Facebook or Instagram, it's Jonathan Tuttle, and Facebook is Jonathan Tuttle Official.
All right, awesome. We'll make sure to have all those links there, Jonathan. It was really a pleasure to have with you, especially as we head into 2021. All best, continued success to you, best to you and the family, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, take care, my friend.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and to reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now, your host, Dwaine Clarke.